What is up guys, Gaming Noob HD here. I have had a couple of weeks to play with my iBasso DX90 and I'm ready to give you guys my first impression and review of the product, so let's get right into it, shall we? Okay guys, so this is the iBasso DX90. It is a digital music player, and what separates this from other music players like the iPod is two things. At a hardware level, it has a higher quality digital to analog converter and amplifier, and at the source level, not only is it able to play your lossy formats like MP3 and AAC, but also higher quality formats like FLAC and WAV is also supported. So in terms of the main features of the iBasso DX90, the iBasso uses a dual Dac saber system, so that's one Dac for each left and right channel, which is going to convert your digital music to an analog signal without introducing loss or discoloring. The inbuilt amplifier is also important for driving high impedance headphones at higher volumes. A limiting factor in devices like the iPod is the inability to drive certain high impedance headphones. This is noticeable in situations where it requires you to turn the device's volume to about 3/4 to close to full just to drive the headphones to make out those certain sounds. And other notable features of the iBasso DX90 include a dual-core processor, expandable memory. It also has a gain switch, so it has 3 levels of gain: low, medium, high, depending on your requirements of your headphones. It also has a coaxial out, so you can pair it with a external DAC if required. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the main specifications of the iBasso DX90 and the differences it has over the iPod. Now let's have a look at the user interface. So the iBasso DX90 is rocking an IPS screen with a resolution of 320 by 240. Not the greatest looking screen, but it does the job. Pixels and jagged text is noticeable, but it doesn't take away from the experience. In terms of user-face usability, it's very simple, which is all you really need in a music player. Navigating through your music and menus is really easy and responsive with the capacitive touch, as you can see. And getting music on the iBasso is just as simple. It's just a matter of plugging your iBasso into your computer and simply dragging and dropping your music collection onto your device. This is great as no third-party software is required for this process. Okay, so far in this review, we've had a look at the main features of the iBasso DX90 and how it compares to the iPod. We've also had a bit of a look at the user interface as well. Now let's dive in a little bit more deep and talk about the most important part, how it handles music playback. To test music playback, I use the Audio-Technica's ATH-M50s to give the most reference sound as possible at a reasonable price without introducing oversaturation of the other sound spectrums. The Audio-Technicas technically don't require too much power to drive them, so it would work significantly well with most mobile devices, but in my personal preference, having that inbuilt amplifier in the iBasso does make a big difference in the sound reproduction, emphasizing higher details at lower volumes. When pairing the iBasso DX90 with the ATH-M50s, the first thing you're going to notice is that it's going to produce a very neutral and true-to-life sound. The iBasso does an outstanding job at driving the ATH-M50s. With the gain settings set to high on here, volume is sitting around less than halfway, so about 200 to 205 increments. At this point, it's able to produce music so loud, it's able to drown out the sound of the external environment, which is great. In terms of sound detailing, I noticed that vocals and instruments were more pronounced, where percussion instruments, which are usually hard to hear, like your kick drum or your hi-hat, were actually brought forward more and more noticeable. The DX90 also does a great job at balancing both your vocals and your instruments, where sound staging is very distinct, allowing you to easily perceive that separation, more so than other audio devices I've listened to. If I had to suggest a song to listen to on your iBasso, it would definitely be Jack Johnson's Better Together. It has a lot going on in terms of both your vocals and your instruments, and listening to it on the iBasso definitely does bring out those subtle details like your bass guitar and your hi-hat, while also enhancing the vocals as well. Where I guess the iBasso shines is definitely in its mid-range and treble, more noticeable in female artists like Lana Del Rey and Adele, where vocals are more prominent. The highs roll over nicely, yet it doesn't distort or become too overbearing, and in terms of bass response, it produces a very nice, strong and punchy bass, yet it doesn't over-drown the music, which is generally what you want when you're reproducing those in an audio device. So in terms of how good the iBasso DX90 is going to sound, it's only going to sound as good as the source and the equipment you pair it with. The difference I'd say this makes to the sound, it's going to be 40% the DX90 hardware and 60% the headphones itself. When you're looking at it from the sound reproduction from the source, it's not going to make everything sound amazing. At this point, it's going to be heavily dependent on how well your music is mixed. So overall, sound reproduction is definitely above average compared to most average consumer digital audio players. I haven't had a lot of experience listening to audiophile music players, but I can say if you yourself loves listening to music and you're looking at getting an audiophile DAP which can give you that same experience you have at home on the go, you definitely won't be disappointed.